Once again, I invite you to be at that quiet place in Jerusalem where you are walking around, overwhelmed by the sights and smells and sounds just everywhere emerging. And you head back to where you're staying that night. And you notice there's a lot of extra activities. Jesus is coming to the place where you stayed last night. You hadn't expected this, but there he is. And he's come with his friends too, including that one who went to talk with the priests. You're still not sure if you should say anything about that to someone. You're going to have to think about it a little bit more. But they come in to the room above where you have been staying, and they're all sitting down. And the family that owns the building has asked you to help out with preparing the meal and serving it. So you're actually closer to this strange person than you ever thought you would be. And as you hang back in the room after you've brought stuff to the table, you get a chance to look at all the men and women sitting around Jesus, looking at him, some with complete adoration, waiting for him to say things, waiting for him to do things. The anticipation is there, the way it has always been around Jesus, you've noticed. And you don't know what's going to happen next. Jesus picks up the bread and he says that one of you is going to betray me. You know who it is. Do you say something now or not? You're called back to the kitchen and you talk to the people there and you tell them what you've heard. And they say, maybe they say, tell him about this. And maybe they say, don't. Keep it to yourself. Maybe you misunderstood. You decide if you've kept your own counsel as you go back to the room and see Jesus still holding that bread. And he breaks it. And he tells everybody sitting around, this is my body, broken for all of you. And he passes the bread to either side, and people tear off a piece and they eat as they go. Some dip it in oil, and others just eat it. And around the table it goes till everybody has had a piece. And then Jesus picks up the wine goblet in front of him. And he says, this is my body, spilled out, my blood spilled out for you. This is the blood of the new covenant, the new promise I've made. Share this with me. And as the cup gets passed around the table, everybody has a sip. You've noticed that the one who was speaking to the Pharisees has left the room. He didn't stick around. No one else seems to have noticed. Even Jesus didn't look over to where he had been. But the cup comes back to Jesus, and you can feel the heaviness in the air. Everybody's waiting for something, an explanation maybe. Why did he do that with the bread and the wine? What was so important that he needed his followers to do that? Why was it okay for him, for all of these strangers in the house, to be witness to that? Your questions just keep growing and growing, and you don't know what it is that he's about. Then he looks around at the crowd again and says, one of you is going to deny me. And Peter says, it won't ever be me. You know it's Peter, because he arranged the room. And Jesus looks to him and says, no, you're going to deny me. Never, Peter claims. And after that, the conversation kind of carries on. They're just friends around celebrating the Passover. They invite you to the table and you sit too, and you partake a little bit of the prayers and the food that's sitting around. Afterwards, while everybody else is cleaned up, Jesus asks 3 of those closest to him to go with him. He wants to go pray. Your curiosity is getting the better of you, and you know you're not going to go to sleep. So as Jesus and the 3 men leave the room, you trail after them too. And you go up to the hill where Jesus is there, and you hide in the trees, and you watch him talk to them, and then go off, and the 3 men fall asleep. And then Jesus comes back, and you hear him getting angry. You come closer and closer, seeing if you can hear, but you don't quite. 3 times this happens, where Jesus has to come back and wake them up. And you are sneaking closer and closer, and now you can hear. You're almost seen. If it was light out, for sure they would know you were there. And Jesus tells his followers, I asked you to be with me right now. Why is that so hard for you to stay awake with me? And you can hear in his voice the pleading and the frustration and almost the fear. What is he so afraid of? And then you hear rustling off to the side and you turn, and there's the man who was talking with the priests. He comes up and he gives Jesus a kiss on the cheek. And those with him grab Jesus, and start to pull him away. The man you know as Peter gets up, grabs a sword, and swats and cuts one of the guards that are taking Jesus. And Jesus said, "This is not how it's supposed to happen." And Jesus goes off with them, not fighting them or resisting them at all. You know what happens when people are taken at night. You saw the bodies lined along the streets heading towards Jerusalem as you came down. You know anybody who challenges the authority usually does not get set free. And you're scared for Jesus. You don't know him very well yet, but you've seen he's kind to his friends, and he seems to care a whole lot about the temple and about the things around that matter to you, like good food, like being in a good place, like celebrating God, like taking the moment just to talk about things. Jesus turns to you just as he leaves and looks you in the eye. He knows you are there, and you can't help yourself. You've got to follow too, and you've got to be there, watching what's going to happen next. So you slip between the trees as quietly as you're able. You lose sight of them, but you recognize the priest. You know they're going to the temple. You know that's where it's going to end up. So you make your way another path. You don't know if the followers of Jesus are going too, but you want to be witness to what's happening. Over the next several hours, you watch as Jesus is tried by the priests. And when they ask him, "Are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God?" you watch as Jesus says, "Yes, I am." You don't know what that's going to mean. How can this human being, this regular man, say he is God and going to sit beside God when he's dead and resurrected? How is that even possible? And as you sit and watch him taken away and you hear him being beaten, you have to wonder who is really representing God here. The priests who are screaming blasphemy, or Jesus who is not resisting and is saying that God is something more than the priests could ever imagine. On this Maundy Thursday, we have so many questions. The energy of Maundy Thursday continues. It's non-stop drama. There's always action happening. There's always something going on. But I invite you to read the story and pause after every paragraph. Just think about what it would be like if you were watching this. What would Jesus look like? What would the rest look like? What would he be wearing? What would his face look like? When he looks at you, what do you feel? Are you drawn in or are you scared away? Try to imagine being with him and his followers 2,000 years ago. How scared are they right now? How scared are you? You've got a good idea what's coming, but you are not 100% positive. Stranger things can happen. But as you hear Jesus scream out in pain as he's being beaten and kicked, all you can do is feel sympathy for this man who seems to want to talk about God all the time, but not the way the priests have always done so. Who are you in this time? What are you feeling? Where are you? How do you sit with the magnitude of what is going on this Thursday?